Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Sleep paralysis and hallucinations. OK/X/, this thread is going to be for sleep paralysis and generally weird sleep-related stories. I want to share 2 quick stories and then get yours in return so I can compare my experiences to others. To start, I'd like to say that I normally don't have very vivid dreams and I don't usually remember them well. So these 2 incidents I'm about to describe stand out a lot in my memory and aren't anywhere close to normal for me. The first time I encountered sleep paralysis was when I was very young in elementary school, though I can't recall the exact age. I was having a nightmare that I was being chased by an enormous, much larger than the average adult, shadowy thing. Typical kid dream stuff, except I remember being aware that I was dreaming. Kind of like a lucid dream, except I was aware of my physical body as well as my dream body. And I couldn't manipulate my dream in any way other than running from this thing. I remember thinking that if it was a dream, I should just wake up and open my eyes and it would end. But when I strained my eyelids to open them, it was like they were being held shut. None of the rest of my body would move, and I was struggling in my mind to run from this gigantic thing, while at the same time straining hard against my eyelids to try and force them open. Apparently, I was making some sort of noise because my mom heard me. When she came in and saw I was having a nightmare, she tried to wake me, but she couldn't. According to her, she tried shaking me and talking to me, but I wasn't responding. I was just kind of groaning and making faces. I don't remember being aware of her until I woke up. Being the religious nut that she was, she just sat there and prayed until I finally woke, which according to her was a while. That whole event bothered me until I was much older and I read about sleep paralysis and found that what happened to me was actually pretty standard as far as the phenomenon goes, so I brushed it off until today. I'm now 23 and haven't had anything like that happen to me again until today. It was early evening and I was pretty tired from being up all night, so I decided to take a quick nap. The first thing I remember is seeing a shadow enter through the window and standing at the foot of the bed. It was like a silhouette, but slightly transparent, and somehow it looked more 3-dimensional rather than 2-dimensional like a shadow normally would. As far as I'm aware, this part happened in my dream. I remember it feeling stupidly real to the point where I tried to sit up and get a better look at this thing, because I couldn't believe I was seeing a ghost or something. When I tried to move, I couldn't. When I tried to yell out, I couldn't. My first thought was that this was sleep paralysis again, and if I just waited, it would pass. But then I woke up with my eyelids still closed. In the waking world, I was paralyzed just like in my dream, the only difference being that my eyes were shut. After only a few seconds, I fell back into the dream where my eyes were just barely open, and this shadow was waiting at the foot of my bed. I was pretty freaked out at this point, and rightly so, because the thing lunged at me and started crawling all over me and doing things to my body. I can't say for sure what it was doing because in the dream, my eyes were barely open, and I couldn't move to get a better look, but at least some of it was sexual. If I started to enjoy what it was doing to me, it would do something horrifying or painful, seemingly to prevent me from enjoying myself. After a short while of this, I woke up just like before, paralyzed with my eyes closed. But it was like I was being pulled back into the dream. When I was younger, I remember being so terrified that I couldn't help but be awake and aware of my body and trying to move it. But this time it was like I couldn't put up a fight physically or mentally. It got even weirder. This back and forth of waking into a paralyzed body and being pulled back into my dream went on for a while. I remember that falling back asleep actually felt like being pulled by that thing, which is why I describe it that way. The torture kept going from pleasant to unpleasant, and I kept rising to consciousness and being pulled back down. Eventually, I woke up unparalyzed, and I sat up in my bed quickly looking around the room. I was relieved to see no shadow creatures. That is, until it came literally flying through my window. I was still dreaming and had a false awakening. This time, it took the form of a large bird of prey with glowing red eyes. It flew around the room menacingly until it landed on top of, pressed me down onto the bed, and changed its shape again. This time, it just became a large amorphous blob, smothering me and holding me down onto the bed, and I was paralyzed in my dream again. After being tormented by this thing for yet another uncertain amount of time, I woke, unparalyzed, and ran out into the living room to tell my girlfriend what had just happened to me. I told her about the false awakening, and she jokingly asked me how I knew if I had actually woken up. I laughed about the idea with her, and then I was back in my bed, paralyzed with my eyes shut. I was really freaking out at this point, and I started to try to scream in a panic, but everything on my body was completely locked down and I couldn't make a sound. It really was like there was a hand over my mouth, or my lips had been sewn shut or something, and I remember being really shocked that for all my panic, terror, and effort, that I just couldn't scream, shout, roll, or even bang a wall. Eventually, I was pulled back down into the dream, and this just went on until I actually woke up for real. I felt surprisingly calm, and noticed that I had slept for 6 hours, which was much longer than I had planned to. My guess is that I felt calm and didn't have a racing heartbeat or anything because eventually I actually fell asleep without the terrifying nightmares and false awakenings. The fact that I slept for 6 or so hours when I only felt tired enough to sleep for about half that time makes it seem like a good chunk of that time was spent with my experience, and the rest was spent making up for the sleep I didn't get while I was being mentally tortured. I went out to the living and rather eerily had the same conversation with my girlfriend that I had in my false awakening. I got chills up my spine when she asked me how I knew I was actually awake, and I told her that was exactly what she had asked me in my dream. She got goosebumps and shuddered when I told her that. This is 100% what happened to me today, and not pasta. I'm posting this for a few reasons. One, I always figured that my experience as a child was mostly terrifying because I was a kid and didn't know what sleep paralysis was. I always assumed that if it happened to me again, I would just be able to grin and bear it. But it's like the terror actually stepped up its game from simply chasing a scared kid to playing mind games with an adult. Two, I want to hear your experience about sleep paralysis to see if anything similar has happened to you/X/files. I was pretty sold on the scientific explanation of this phenomenon until today. That thing felt and looked just as real as anything does when I'm awake. I can't say that for any dream I've ever had in my life. I could feel its presence when I was awake in my paralyzed body pulling at me from what felt like it was below me. I could tell that it was enjoying the hell out of what it was doing to me. Is that normal? To sense that the terror in your nightmare is getting sick, enjoyment out of watching you struggle to escape it. All in all, I think I must have woken into my paralyzed body and been pulled back down into my dream 3 times. I also had 3 false awakenings which were separate from my actual awakenings into my frozen body. I don't know if this is significant, but it seems like a lot of repetition without being snapped out of it even once. The weirdest part to me is that after it was over, I just fell asleep and didn't wake up in a cold sweat or something. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest, and I'll be monitoring this thread to hear from /X/ about the times you've experienced this phenomenon. I want to know what you think about it. Is this truly a paranormal event, or is the scientific explanation all there is to it?
Know what? I'll share a few stories that I have from when I was a kid. Be me, 11 or 10 years old, 19 right now. My parents just got divorced a couple years ago. Mom took me, we moved into a 2-story house in a nice suburb. Nothing weird about the house from the 70s. Average kid at time, play video games and watch TV. Go to bed as usual, hoping to wake up and have a fun day tomorrow. Wasn't fun. Open my eyes and can't wait to move and jump out. Psych. I can't move. I can't move at all. I can't turn my head, can't move my body or anything. All frightening to little me. I try to move my body left and right to fall off bed. Doesn't work. Try screaming for my mommy to please save me from this. I can't scream. Oh God, I can't scream. Let it stop, I beg. Just let it stop. I close my eyes and take a deep breath, and all of a sudden I can move. For the rest of the day, nothing about it, and move on thinking it wouldn't happen again. I was wrong, boy was I wrong. It happened 2 more times after this, and they got really terrifying. I'll share them if I don't pass out. I don't mind sharing my stories, and yes, I have had someone talk to me in sleep paralysis saying they were gonna kill me and stuff. It's even freakier that it happened in about a time span of a week. Here's my second story. About a day has passed since the first episode. Everything is normal. I've been falling asleep and waking up normally like any other kid. Get off from the computer, kiss mom goodnight, and jump into my bed ready for tomorrow. Don't really dream too much, so wake up to Mom calling me from downstairs. Something's up. For a second, I look over my shoulder without having moved at all and look forward, ready. I don't know why, it must be my brain and not me. Oh God, I can't move my body again. It's just like last time. I'm awake and can move my eyes, but I can't scream in terror for what happens next. Oh yeah, this all happens in a time frame of 2 seconds from what I remember. I can feel something behind me. I'm laying on my side, looking out towards my window and not towards my big room. Oh God, is that breathing I'm feeling down my neck? Next thing you know, it feels as if my brain is going to explode. Really intense ringing and shaking feeling going on in my head. I try my hardest to scream because this genuinely hurts, but I wasn't expecting what happened next. This breathing I felt was like it was someone. I could feel it staring at me. Then it talked. It said, and to make it more terrifying for me at this age, my name. Don't move, Brandon. You will die if you do. I'll kill you, Brandon. Don't move. I'm crying now, not full-blown, but tears rolling down my face. I'm trying my hardest not to look behind me because I could move my neck around, but not my body. My eyes are closed the entire time because I remember Mom telling me, just keep your eyes closed and it'll be okay. When you're scared, close them and pretend that scary thing isn't there, from when my sisters showed me horror films. This feeling of someone behind me disappears. The loud noise and shakiness in my head disappears also. For a 10-year-old me, it was the scariest thing ever. I turn around to face my fears, and guess what? Nothing there. Little me just thinks, what the hell just happened? I wipe the tears from my face, look around, gasp for some air, and head downstairs to eat. As before, I thought nothing of it and could only believe that it was just some incredibly real nightmare. Hoped it would never come back, that would be the end, but it wasn't. The third and final time that it happened to me was when I actually saw something. Well, 2 things actually, and my God, I'm still terrified from the thought of it. Hope I'm not the only one that had it this young of an age. Okay, final post. It's a lot to digest, I know. I posted in a thread once about sleep paralysis before, and copied what I wrote, so if the topic ever came up again, I had it ready. Here's my conclusion. Okay, so conclusion of my stories. I've had really only one creepy thing happen since the end of my episodes, but it never came back, thankfully. This probably wouldn't scare me as much now, but to a little boy, it's really, really scary. Anyways, I want to say 4 days have passed since the last time it happened. Again, same setting as last time, my room upstairs and in the morning. I go to bed normally and think I'm going to wake up normally and that what happened 2 times already wouldn't happen again. I was not prepared. I wake up normally and can feel it. It's sleep paralysis again. This time, though, I wake up on my back looking out towards my whole room since I'm in a corner. The door is slightly cracked, just enough for someone to peek in. Realize that, Jesus Christ, I can't move or scream, can only move my eyes around. I want my mom to come and help me, but I can't, no matter how hard I'm trying. Oh God, what is that feeling coming upon me? As like the second time, it feels as if my head is going to explode. Can't really explain it. It's as if someone is playing a loud beep into your head and then shaking your head while it's playing. I really want to scream, but just can't. The whole time I'm closing my eyes and grinding my teeth. But I'm curious. Somehow curiosity came to me at that time. I opened my eyes to see what my room's like. Bad idea. Why would I do that? At the time, I couldn't tell it was probably a hallucination, but now I can. I see some dark humanly shadow with red eyes looking into my room from the crack in my door. This can't be real, this can't be real. But wait, hold on, what the hell is that? Jesus Christ, get me out of this. I am not making this up. I really remember seeing this in the corner of my room. It's the bottom half of a lady's torso, sticking out of my wall, sideways with butt propped up and legs touching floor, with hair coming down and a black spot from where the body is coming out. All the while experiencing this with the feeling that my head is going to explode. This isn't real. Just close your eyes and imagine it's not there. God damn it, why the hell did I have to be curious? My eyes are sealed tighter than a hangman's knot. The whole head about to explode feeling disappears. I'm scared, but I got to face my fears. They're gone. The feeling's gone, I can move. I didn't wake up though, I just merely opened my eyes again. What the hell did I just see? Forget it, just be happy I'm alive. Forget about the experience and put it at the back of my head, but I'll never forget seeing a woman's torso hanging from my wall, ever. To this day, I hope to never see something like that again. It felt so real at the time, and not being able to move or scream doesn't help either. Sleep paralysis is a really scary thing to me, and I'm pretty sure to others. Even weirder, I had it at 10 and have no known mental sleeping problems. I'm wondering now, though, how well documented is it about this stuff happening at an early age? I can't be the only one I know of. Also, now I want to know if any of you have had stories similar to mine. Please share them, because I really don't believe I'm the only one.
Well, I've been suffering from sleep problems since I was young. I probably had sleep paralysis at least a dozen times, if not more. The first couple times it's scary and terrifying and will mind screw you. Usually I would have been up for around 24 to 40 hours straight and would be hyper alert but trying to fall asleep. I won't know when or if I fell asleep, but I would suddenly be aware I am lying in my bed in darkness and I cannot move anything. Suddenly I would just feel this crushing weight pushing down on my entire body, trying to force my eyes shut and my mind to just let go. For whatever reason, I just felt that something was near my bed doing this to me, just trying to kill me. I would always hear like a wind blowing during this entire time. If you force your eyes close and push down on them with your forehead, if you hear that sound in your head, that's what I hear during these events. I had this happen to me so much I no longer fear it. I know I can also make it occur if I want to. I know the conditions for my mental state that bring the highest chance of it.
So first I came to lucid dream, and can lucid dream at will. Even if it's sleep paralysis and I'm consciously strong at that moment, I can make myself go back to the dream and try to make it lucid. Yes, I've succeeded at times. But at certain other times, I can't do it, no matter how much I try. Like you mentioned, being pulled back to it is one of those times where I do not have control over it. Trying to be lucid at the same time doesn't really work, because you are aware of your body laying down on the bed, paralyzed while you are in your dream. Though lucid dreaming means being aware that you are dreaming, I can't categorize this because I do not have full control over it. One thing I do notice is, when in sleep paralysis, even the slightest or smallest sound can be amplified so great that you can't recognize the sound. What's worse is that it sounds like something else. For example, if you have been in paralysis while there are some people having a conversation outside the room, the voices will sound scary. You can't make sense, but you know there are people talking. Even the slightest gust of wind, fan, or a small buzz will sound pretty damn scary and like something totally different. But what disturbs me is the different types of states you get into. For example, there have been times where I'm literally paralyzed, on the bed, and eyes partially awake and can see everything around the room. Yes, sometimes I've hallucinated that there are shadows, but while I'm paralyzed laying on the bed, I know that they are a fragment of my imagination. What I believe I see scares the hell out of me. So I try to move around, but literally can move just a finger maybe. That's about it, and I have to lay there hearing weird noises and hums, sometimes seeing things and having this general fear through the whole time trying to make my body move. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes I have to put myself back into sleep and then jerk myself awake to get out of it. Sometimes when I do go back to the dream, I get stuck there for a while. Since I am able to lucid dream, sometimes I try to make the dream lucid once I go back into it. But these are all different occasions and won't work every single time. So I'm guessing there are certain other factors which affect how you control or face the situation. Now to the odd part, one of the reasons I'm replying to this thread. I used to sleepwalk when I was a kid. I was never aware of this. But my parents and my relatives have told me, and tried to stop me when I sleepwalk. Once I almost got out of the house by unlocking it, but for my luck, my uncle came back home late and he was right outside. So this episode passed. It eventually stopped. But my interest in dreams never went away. Recently, I've been experiencing something different. A different type of sleep disorder. It's sleep paralysis, yes, but it's odd. 'Cause no matter how much I sleep, I can never sleep. Other than the lucid dreaming, and the normal dreams, sometimes I end up waking up due to voices. I usually hear my name sometimes when I take a nap at daytime. Usually I know I'm hearing it in my mind, these voices calling for me. So I am able to make sense out of it. At times it's so real that I get off the bed and look for the person, whom I know is just outside the room, and when confronted, they say they never called me. The odd part is that I am able to tell where exactly they are calling me from. But then again, I try to deduce that before I went to take a nap, I might have been aware of where they were last staying, so my brain automatically points to that place when I hear their voice. So certain things even I can't be sure, but I do try to be logical about it. So as I was mentioning, recently, the things that I see or feel are different. It's not just a feeling of someone around, a hallucination or a shadow that is around me. It's not only the feeling that there is someone in the room, but the feeling that either I myself is not letting me go to sleep or something is keeping me from it. Not over a week ago I was at a friend's place. I fell asleep. Then in my dreams I saw hands, all dark but just a bunch of hands. I did get scared but realized it was a dream. What scared the hell out of me was, while I was dreaming, knowing that I'm laying there, I got hit on the head with one hand. I didn't see that hand in my dream, but I got hit on the head. As I jerked awake and jumped out of the bed, all I could see was so many hands all around me coming at me. I was already standing, awake, not paralyzed. I heard people laughing, giggles like mockery. I just darted out of the room to my friend who was sleeping right outside. I felt pukish because I had jetted out the bed so fast that my body couldn't handle it, probably cause I'm unwell. What I can deduce is, sleep paralysis is probably not only connected to our consciousness, I get the strong feeling, which I kind of believe due to out-of-body experience, that it connects to us in another realm as well. Another realm as in the spiritual realm. It is when these realms mix and our spiritual entities are either weak or strong or being mixed with the reality that we perceive, that these situations take place. Unfortunately, there are so many factors that we can't just pinpoint at one. So what I will try to do is deduce, experience and face them one by one. Finding a connection. Cause I need to find out, cause sometimes, it's coming to a point where I do not have a proper night's sleep, cause I just don't fall asleep, though I dream. I hope you guys will be able to shed some more knowledge in this area. Cause there has to be a connection, and I hope what I've written down helps someone in some way to get a hold of whatever the situation is that they are facing. Let's all figure this out together. Suddenly I woke up and started hearing infrasound. I looked it up from the internet. I couldn't move anything but my eyes. Then I started to shake all over the body, felt like I had cramps and also had the feeling that I'm on fire all over the body. I was afraid to open my eyes, so I don't know, could I see demons sitting on me or something, but it was interesting. It has happened 2 times now. Also the second time was worse, and also I felt like my eardrums were going to explode. I've had some kind of body shakings more. That all stuff is a little creepy and interesting at the same time.
General info on sleep paralysis, mostly copied from Wiki for those curious. Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon in which people, either when falling asleep or wakening, temporarily experience an inability to move. Occurs either when falling asleep or waking, and is believed to be a result of disrupted rapid eye movement, REM sleep. The paralysis is from muscle atonia, which keeps people still while they dream. Sleepwalking is what happens when there is a lack of inducing muscle atonia by the brain. It has been linked to narcolepsy, migraines, anxiety disorders, and obstructive sleep apnea. But it also occurs just on its own as well. It is majorly classified into isolated and recurrent isolated sleep paralysis. Isolated sleep paralysis is infrequent, typically lasting under a minute, while recurrent isolated sleep paralysis is frequent and occurs throughout one's lifetime. Recurrent isolated sleep paralysis events typically last longer than the isolated variation, an hour or longer. Recurrent isolated sleep paralysis events have a higher occurrence of out-of-body experiences, while isolated sleep paralysis events typically involve intruder and incubus hallucinations. Recurrent isolated sleep paralysis episodes can occur back-to-back in a single night, unlike isolated sleep paralysis. Eye movement is still possible during these episodes, while speech is not. Hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations are common during these episodes, with some scientists saying sleep paralysis is a likely explanation for reports of alien abductions and ghostly encounters. The 3 main types of hallucinations that can be linked to pathologic neurophysiology are the intruder in the room, the incubus, and vestibular motor sensations. The intruder hallucination is the deep sense of terror inflicted by the sense that there is a presence in the room. The intruder is believed to be caused by an emergency response in the brain when waking up paralyzed and feeling vulnerable to an attack. The incubus hallucination is associated with a belief that one is being suffocated, usually strangled. It is believed that the incubus is caused by a combination of the self-defense mechanism in the brain described above and the sleep paralysis removing the ability to manually breathe. The terror self-defense responses causes one to want to breathe deeply in fright, but failing to do so causes more terror and so on into a feedback loop. The third hallucination, vestibular motor sensations, involves a sense of floating is believed to be caused by the brain functions which coordinate body movement, becoming confused by the lack of movement, despite your brain telling your body to move. Several circumstances are believed to increase one's risk of experiencing sleep paralysis. Insomnia and sleep deprivation, an erratic sleep schedule, stress, overuse of stimulants, physical fatigue, as well as certain medications that are used to treat ADHD. Sleeping in the supine position, on your back arms at your sides, is also believed to increase your risk. The original word used to describe sleep paralysis was nightmare, which evolved into our modern definition of the word. Widely believed to be the work of incubi which sat on the chest of the sleeper known in Old English as mare, hence nightmare. In Scandinavian folklore, the mare is a damned woman, who is cursed and her body is carried mysteriously during sleep and without her noticing. In this state, she visits villagers to sit on their rib cages while they are asleep, causing them to experience nightmares. Folk belief in Newfoundland, South Carolina, and Georgia describe the nightmare as the old hag. In Fiji, the experience is interpreted as kana tevoro, being eaten by a demon, is often referred to within African communities as the devil on your back. In Chinese culture, sleep paralysis is widely known as ghost pressing on body, or ghost pressing on bed. In Mongolian culture, nightmares in general, as well as sleep paralysis, is referred to as to be pressed by the black. The cultural references go on because this phenomenon is recognized around the world and is usually attributed to something paranormal in origin. I mostly found the scientific explanation to make a whole lot of sense, while the cultural paranormal explanations to be an understandable common explanation for sleep paralysis. But with my most recent experience, I'm left wondering just how much truth is behind the scientific explanation, and if perhaps the common folklore around the world might be more on point.
So I'm gonna need to start with some backstory to fully convey the horror of the first incident I had with sleep paralysis. I'd been having the same dream, on and off, for almost 10 years. Starting when I was 4 or 5. In the dream I was always the same age, 4 or 5, like when it first happened. I was playing in our old house, that we moved away from when I was 3. It started with the sudden realization that I was alone in the house, but still being watched. Being watched by the thing that had taken away the rest of my family. Something in the shadows, something I couldn't see but could tell it was there. So I realized that if there was no shadow, there would be no thing in them. I turned on all the lights in the house, plugging in extra lamps and lighting candles in all the corners and shining flashlights under all the beds, getting rid of all the shadows everywhere. I could tell I had driven it away, so I celebrated by playing in the backyard. Under the little footbridge over the creek. The suddenly far too massive footbridge, with far too dark a corner. Even in the dreams things slowed down, as I watched the dark thing shift and swell and reach an arm out towards me. And each time I have the dream, the hand gets just a little closer before I wake up. Until one day it reached me, and the darkness consumed me. I was unmade. Body, mind, thought, soul. Completely wiped away. Not broken or torn or sundered or beaten or killed. Just undone. My entire existence, erased before it had even begun, and in less than the blink of an eye, in the literal span of instantly. Hours. Days. Years. Later my mind became aware again. I existed, and I remembered. But I had no body, no senses. I remember trying to struggle, but it's not just that my body wouldn't respond. I literally believed it simply did not exist. I slowly became aware of seeing the faintest daylight through my closed eyelids, then feeling the bed under me. Then knowledge of my legs and arms, then torso and head returned, in that order, but not quickly. Once I was aware of my head, I was able to move again and opened my eyelids. It had been an afternoon nap, not even 3 hours.
I'm 26 and I've had maybe 5 sleep paralysis attacks in about 5 years, all slightly different but all equally terrifying. I'm torn between whether it's paranormal or psychological. The first sleep paralysis attack was when I'm about 20, living back at home during holidays while at university, sleeping in a different room than the one I grew up in. Girl at the cafe I'm temping at tells me she has sleep paralysis or night terrors. Tell me the generic description. Paralyzed, unable to scream, demon on her chest, strangling her. Next night I'm having an ordinary dream. Friend in the dream wants to drink and drive and I don't want him to. I say that's it. If you're not going to listen to me, then I'm waking up. Eyes suddenly open wide. I'm in my bedroom. There is a black figure standing in the corner of my room. He has dreadlocks and a painted face and red eyes, like the spirit of Jazz from the Mighty Boosh. Pick related. Want to move and scream but can't. The figure finally fades away. Realize I've just had sleep paralysis for the first time in my life, in my 20s. What the hell? Happens more times over the next couple of years. Now it always starts when I'm having a dream which almost instantly turns into a nightmare. Had scary nightmares which would last all night when I was a kid, but this feels different. Sudden feeling of inexplicable terror and dread washes over me. Almost abstract fear, like a wave of darkness. Feels like an evil energy washing over me. Open my eyes. Paralyzed. Sleep paralysis begins again. One time it was a totally black shadow with burning red eyes in the usual corner of my room. Another time it was an alien sitting at the bottom of my bed, its big head and eyes peering over my covers. I've always had a big phobia and fascination of aliens. Another time the camera probe thing from War of the Worlds. The farmhouse cellar scene was snaking through my window into my bedroom. I always sleep with the TV or my laptop on, or a desk lamp on now. Now I'm used to that weird and terrible feeling of the evil energy washing over me. Often jump up in the middle of the night to prevent an attack by switching my light on, or my laptop, or TV. Realizing this sleeping arrangement isn't ideal, but the alternative isn't an option either. I've moved around a lot, lived in several countries, and nearly more houses than I can count on my fingers. Only ever had trouble sleeping and sleep paralysis in this house, in this room. Last owner of the house died in this house, probably on this floor in this room. 3rd floor, this was his library and study. Planning to move out of parents' house end of the month. Can't wait to get a peaceful night's sleep again.
About 2 years ago I woke up with sleep paralysis. Nothing scary happened, it never does. Except for once when I was a kid. I just tried to get up for a bit until I realized what was going on. Eventually I fell back asleep and have a dream that I was waking up. Everything seemed legit. Got out of bed and saw myself in the mirror. Eyes stitched so that they couldn't close. My nose was non-existent. Not missing, just like it was never there, and my mouth, oh my god, I get shivers thinking about it. It was as though my lips had been cut off then stitched together so that they healed together as one. I tried screaming as loud as I could. I tried as hard as I could to open my mouth and scream, but all I got was muffled noises. Eventually it ended when I woke up. My brain was still telling my mouth to scream when the dream ended and paralysis wore off, and for a split second I screamed. I swear I had PTSD for like a month after that. I'll never forget that face till the day I die.
With all the people interested in exploring astral realms and travel and stuff, sleep paralysis has some connections with it. I see a lot of posts about people wanting to go out, adventure, meet people. But some people and beings may do it for other reasons not in your best interest, feeding off the emotional honeypot of fear. They use a realm more suited for you, your own reality, and it's familiar with them too. Once one is attracted to you or someone feels you did them wrong, they can enter this realm and invoke a fear, using you who is not knowing of the ways to feel dragged or forced in. Your brain can't understand what is happening. You are sleeping. It is sending impulses that make up imagery that you felt and experienced that associates with it, but you're also dreaming. Your sleep state allows the molding and rendering of concepts and thoughts you experienced in the day around it as well. This also creates a more vivid, realistic feeling of what is going on around you. All the while, this thing is feeding off of your fear. It doesn't know how you generate it. You just emit a lot of it, and this thing is gouging.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.